Thoughts on this issue, use the SMS number 22422. I already see a lot of your comments coming in. Breastfeeding mothers were set to get a major boost after the sponsoring of the Breastfeeding Mothers Bill by Murang'a Women's representative Sabina Shege. However, as you've just seen from our previous report, that is yet to happen. With me in studio tonight, Executive Director, FEDA Kenya, Teresa Omondi Adetan. Thank you very much for joining us in studio.
Thank you.
Before I read the reactions to this incident, what should the recourse for this breastfeeding mother be for other nursing mothers or who get caught up in situations where they're turned away or told they can't breastfeed their mothers, their children, they can't change their children within certain facilities? What should their recourse be?
First and foremost, I think it's even sad that as a nation we have now come to a point where we are discussing food for the baby in such a manner that people have either considered it as indecent exposure or now sexualizing it. It's so unfortunate. But she has recourse in the sense that it's her right, human dignity. It is embarrassing, like you've heard her saying, she still feels traumatized, she feels victimized. Her right to dignity has been violated, which is a constitutional right, and now she actually has a right to sue for that kind of embarrassment and even being ushered out from a restaurant, even in as much as any restaurant would want to say they have the right or they reserve the right for admission. And I think that's one of the things that as FEDA Kenya we are saying, we've reached out to the lady, and we are going to have an opportunity to take instructions from her. And I think the restaurant should be held accountable because her right was violated.
Talking about the Breastfeeding Mothers Bill, Teresa, it was in its third reading in the last parliament. And the 12th parliament is now, transitioning now to the 12th parliament, which is now more than 8 months old. This bill doesn't seem to be attracting any attention from organizations that agitate for women's rights, such as FEDA. Why have you been silent on this issue?
I think first and foremost, the idea behind the bill, we really supported it. And just like she said, when it got to the third reading, it didn't get to pass, and now they have to recommit the bill. But I want to tell Kenyans out there that actually, in as much as the bill did not pass, we have a whole section in the Health Act, which is a law in this country, that says all employers, all people employed should be given space for lactation. Mothers should get a break, and that's under Section 71 of the Health Act currently. So it's not all lost. It wasn't all lost, because currently it's actually something that now the ministry in charge of labor and even all the organizations that, anyone who has over 30 employees should ensure that they have such a space. So I think what is left for us now is to ensure that now it goes beyond just employers, but also all other public places.
Right.
Just like we say smoking zone for people who smoke, for example, then in all public places there should be a breastfeeding room or a nursing room. And I also want to mention this, that there are also men out here who take care of their children, and they go into a restaurant and probably want to change your baby, and there's no space for doing that. What then happens? So such kind of situation, sorry.
Yes, which brings me to the fact that it should be happening, it's not happening, so there seems to be an issue with follow-up, and which brings me to the women's voice in positions of leadership. We have more women representation in county assemblies as well as in parliament. However, enforcement of women's rights doesn't seem to be improving, and we're looking at case in point, this situation where we know, for instance, that there's supposed to be nursing rooms, there's supposed to be changing rooms, but that's not happening. So in terms of the women's voice in positions of leadership and how it has improved women's rights, which are human rights generally, your thoughts?
Okay, first and foremost, I want to say that for every law in this country, whether governing women or men, has to get political will. I'm sure, Lillian, you've seen us out there, even when it came to the 2/3 representation of women, trying to get enough women in parliament so that when such bills come, we have at least even the votes, and it's easy for the bills to pass. There's still no political will in this country. And then also let's look at how women issues are prioritized. If today the breastfeeding bill is back in parliament, would that be the priority in the context of what is happening in our current society? So we might, yes, have more women now in parliament, at least now 23 MPs and the 47 women representatives, but still that does not translate to people prioritizing women rights issues in this country. So FEDA Kenya, other women rights organizations, we can be out here still speaking about this, but as long as there's no political will, then we are just being taken round in circles. I mean, it only remained assenting to that bill.
Right.
Literally. So.
Right, and we thank you so much for your time. That is FIDA Executive Director Teresa Omondi Adeitan, who now says that they are in contact with the lady in question who was turned away from the restaurant after attempting to nurse her child. And a lot of you are writing in, and I will be reading your comments right before the break. We thank you for your time, Teresa. In other news, Baringo Senator Gideon Moy has finally come out in the open regarding his plan